Welcome back to the Real Couchwives Podcast, where we overanalyze all things Bravo.
So, Iris, there are 7 reality TV shows airing on Bravo right now, and they are all delivering. I don't know how it's possible, especially after a pretty rocky 2022 that was filled with just fake storylines and pretty heavy content like across the board. Bravo's really managed to turn it around this year and breathe new life into almost all of the franchises that we're seeing.
Yeah, and it's crazy. As you say, there's like Southern Charm, Winterhouse, Beverly Hills, Salt Lake City, Potomac, Miami. I think Below Deck is coming out.
Yeah, Below Deck Med is out right now. And then we're going to get RHONY Legacy and Southern Hospitality. And then VPR is going to come back in January.
Yay! I'm so excited. January 15th, apparently.
So yeah, there's so much content out. We're going to talk about why we think everything is doing so well. Like what has changed in Bravo this year. And then we're just going to do a little kind of round robin on our thoughts on like all of those franchises that Iris just mentioned. So stick around. To start us off, what has changed between 2022 and 2023 to make all of these shows like so enjoyable again? You know, I mentioned Vanderpump Rules. I think it's undeniable that there's just so much real life drama that's unfolding in the lives of like so many of our castmates. Yeah. Castmates, apparently I'm in the show. The cast members.
Yeah, you know.
But yeah, it's just like there's just real drama that happened to get picked up by the cameras. Obviously, Scandoval with Vanderpump Rules and like the infamous Tom Sandoval and Ariana breaking up because Tom Sandoval was cheating with Ariana's best friend Raquel. That kind of started us off. And then after that, there's just been like a slew of like other crazy breakups and deceits that have been coming out. Like we're seeing in, you know, Southern Charm, like we're seeing in Beverly Hills.
Yeah, I know. I feel like the way that we're going to look back on this time is we're going to look at it as like pre-Scandoval and post-Scandoval. Like it's like the new BC. Like it was such a shockwave through the system of Bravo and Bravo audiences, and like just like brought us all kind of like together again in such an impactful way. And the way that it has kind of like changed, you know, and impacted, you know, the way that we're looking at Southern Charm this season. We would not be reading Southern Charm in the same way had Scandoval not happened. And I think the same goes for Beverly Hills too, right?
No, that's a really good point. Like, would we be as invested in these storylines had Scandoval not come first and us been like, and us just kind of like wanting that type of drama and then being like, oh wow, well like look over there. That's like kind of a similar situation. Like with Southern Charm, for those of you who don't know, it's kind of difficult to explain, but essentially there's like what we're calling a love square.
Yeah. Sounds very natural.
Yeah. Definitely something you don't want to be caught in.
No, definitely not. Especially not this one in particular.
No, with so we have Shep and Taylor who dated for, you know, 2 to 3 years quite seriously, and then Shep is best friends with Austin, Taylor is best friends with Olivia, and essentially after Shep and Taylor break up, Taylor and Austin kiss. Yes. And they hide it from the rest of the cast and they betray their best friends. And this is all kind of unfolding on the most recent season. So, you know, it's came out really quickly, like on episode 1, basically, actually. Yeah, they addressed it on episode 1.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it's just kind of been like continuing throughout the season.
Yeah, exactly. And the way that like our total reading of this situation has been impacted by the way that it mirrors the situation with Scandoval is very interesting to be looking at, right? Like the parallels between Raquel and Taylor and the places that they are in their life, the times of their life that they're in, and then just the reception that they've had from the cast, and the way that that's all just like come out in all of this. But then obviously like also in Beverly Hills, we then have like the Kyle and Mauricio storyline where like, you know, Kyle and Mauricio have been like the most solid couple on Beverly Hills for every season up until like this current season, which I think is season 13? Yeah. And like for them to finally kind of like, you know, the cracks in their relationship starting to be showing, and the like potential deterioration of their like relationship. Yeah. It's just so crazy because it is, again, you know, very much like the Scandoval effect on Beverly Hills.
It really is. And with Kyle and Mauricio too, it's again, I think it's that shock value that like it's something that we weren't expecting. Like Scandoval was very much something that we weren't expecting in Southern Charm. This like Austin and Taylor kiss is something that we weren't expecting. And on Beverly Hills, like Kyle and Mauricio like seemed like the perfect couple for literally 12 years that they've been appearing on the show. They've like never once hinted that there is even like the smallest of cracks in their relationship. That like it definitely has you thinking. I think another thing too actually is that like this news comes out before the show, or in, you know, with Scandoval while the show is coming out. So you're watching the show in a different way, right? You know the outcome and you know where it's gonna end. And you're trying to like, you know, we're all putting our detective glasses on like as we're watching these shows, which like I feel like is not something that Bravo anticipated, but they're definitely leaning into now.
Oh, definitely. Well, and also with the amount of just like content creation that's now happening around these shows, right? Like people like I think it was Face Reality 16 who was doing the deep dive into Kyle's like engagement rings and when she was wearing them and when she wasn't wearing them, and like that actually was a story that kind of like broke on Instagram before anything broke on like Page 6 or any of that, like, you know, the regular news outlets, right? So the way that kind of like the content creators are also feeding the storylines to the fans before we even get any kind of confirmation from the, you know, the tabloids or from Bravo itself is just like wild. And that's probably also kind of like help breathing like new life into the regime as well.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. It's like I feel like the drama is like happening on social media, going into the show, going back to social media. Like it's really like cyclical, and it kind of makes you feel like you're part of it and like you're invested in it too. So yeah, no, honestly, like definitely here for all the drama that it's bringing. Like I have been surprised in a lot of ways. Like Beverly Hills, like I was not expecting to like Beverly Hills this season. Last season of Beverly Hills was so rough.
It was bad.
It was so bad with Rinna and Erica and just like you know,
the like Kathy storyline, like, and that was just it too, right? Like that we had that whole Kathy storyline play out where we're like Rinna was accusing Kathy Hilton of basically having gone on this huge like major rampage, this major rant, like all of this like completely unfilmed, no video footage whatsoever, nothing of, you know, beyond Lisa Rinna's like secondhand account the next day of like what happened,
right?
And like if we think about like fake storylines and like the, you know, the difference between the storylines that we're seeing this season and the storylines that we were seeing last season on Beverly Hills, but also like just on a lot of these shows in general, you know, it feels like we're getting so much more kind of like of what reality TV is supposed to be.
Yes, no, totally. And everything's caught on camera. Like they're picking cameras back up to catch it on camera, maybe to make sure that we don't get another situation there.
Because that was such a disaster.
Well, and that's kind of another thing that I think has changed too is like, I think to some extent Bravo has listened to the fan reactions, you know, which we have seen with Rinna getting booed at BravoCon and like definitely not being well received last season, more so than any others. And she didn't come back. And the season is doing really well.
We're actually loving it this season. Well, and even I think like Salt Lake City is one that kind of like suffered with, I don't know if they were suffering with fake storylines last season as much as they were suffering with incomplete storylines, right? Like that whole Heather Black Eye storyline was just such an absolute like crash and burn. I think they ended up doing like 2 less episodes than they were scheduled to do as well last season. And in part, like, you know, I think there's like some speculation of like, okay, well, is that because Jen then pled guilty and that kind of like ruined the storyline that they were going to take this show towards? But we know that like as like an audience, like we didn't get the full season that we were expecting to get. And now here we are with Salt Lake City this season. And, you know, Jen is obviously gone. She's gone off to prison after she pled guilty. And so like the group is now kind of like left without like one of their like central figures. And they're kind of like now reorganizing themselves and seeing how their allegiances lie now that like one of like the main people that like took up like a lot of space in the group
so
is
much
now
space
gone.
So much
space, like too much space,
such an angry dark cloud.
We got Mary Cosby back and we got Monica now, so
another thing, like, I feel like Bravo, you know, they didn't make any of this up. It was what was happening as well. But like, there was a lot of just like crime, to put it in no other way. You know, like, you have Jen who literally pled guilty to fraud and like horrible acts, you know, against elderly people and like scamming them out of their money. But we watched her for a whole season cry, you know, about how innocent she is and the toll that this is wreaking on her family. And then that happened. So, you know, it was that. And then like in Beverly Hills, it was very focused on, you know, Erica trying to kind of like repaint the whole Tom Girardi, another person who's going to jail for fraud.
Also stole money from old people.
Also stole
money from everybody, really. Anybody that was down and out that he could steal money from, he was going to steal it from them.
It was not good. And we all just kind of had to sit there and watch Erica basically like play victim. And like, it was just like, it was a lot and it wasn't fun. And it was, I remember like we would talk to each other and we'd be like, I actually leave these episodes feeling angry and feeling like distraught. And that's not what you want when you watch these types of shows. So, you know, I feel like now that they've kind of like left that behind, they're able to focus on like new storylines.
Yeah, which is really nice. And I do think that there is something to the fact that Heather and Whitney went off and they did their own little Ultimate Girls trip, and they kind of like saw like from like other Housewives and other Housewife franchises like how it's done. And they got like Heather in particular, I feel like she kind of got called out for the whole like weird black guy fake storyline.
Fully, yeah.
Not fake storyline, but just like lack of storyline, right? Like if you're not going to talk about it and we can't figure it out and none of us know what's going on, then like why is this happening? And then like, you know, Whitney, like I think even Whitney's kind of calmed down a little bit. I think she got like, especially in the early seasons, she was like really very much like producery and like potstery and like not really like having any kind of like plot line of her own. And I think she's kind of, well, she's had like a little bit of a plot line, but you know what I think, you know what I'm saying. And so I think that they kind of like were able to take notes from the other Housewives. So similar to the way that Bravo is taking notes from like the you know, the listeners and the viewers and what we're thinking and feeling and how we're responding to these people, the Housewives are going off and doing their own homework too, which I appreciate.
Not to get too ahead of like our Salt Lake City recap, but like I am kind of confused why they replaced Jen Shaw with Mary, who also has a lot of controversy surrounding her and like is very problematic in certain ways. So that was a choice.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. And Mary is definitely an interesting addition to the Salt Lake City cast. She's definitely kooky. She's definitely different, and she doesn't really want to participate. So
she doesn't want to be there anyway.
Why she wants to be there. Maybe it's just for the paycheck. Maybe it's just for like, you know, the good time. But she definitely seems very uninterested in a lot of these ladies. I'm kind of here for it.
I don't know. It depends on the day for me.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair.
But yeah, so Bravo, you know, they listened, and I think they knew that they couldn't keep doing what they were doing and definitely needed a shakeup. So loving, you know, to see what these franchises are like without Jen, without Rinna, you know? Just like starting to go in some different places. I think another area where Bravo kind of listened and was able to shake things up is with Winterhouse, which, you know, had gotten a little bit stale last year, kind of just seeing like the same people. Like, and I love, you know, the Summer House and the Southern Charm cast, but like I feel like the first one was fun ish. No, it was fun. I think I liked it. I think the second one was just kind of like, it couldn't find its footing that much. Craig was on a rampage for a lot of it.
I mean, I think I understand the concept of Winterhouse, right? Like it was born out of like the pandemic and them needing to like you know, create something new and like be able to film content in like a safe kind of environment, and like having like a 2 to 3 week period where they could have them all kind of like be in a house together, you know, getting up into some business, and then kind of like go away and be like, okay, great, that's like a 10 episode block, perfect, done. And like also like, you know, the ability to then like shop around kind of like characters, right? Like be able to like bring people in, test them out, see how they do in a pretty like low stakes setting was also like very smart. And I think like them understanding that like actually what they could do, like beyond just like bringing in like a new cast of characters, is like, let's just get different group dynamics together. It's just kind of the same thing with that happened with Ultimate Girls Trip, right? Like it's the new version of Ultimate Girls Trip where they're just trying to like see what different dynamics they can get together from, you know, these kind of like more I guess it's like experimental kind of TV shows.
Yeah.
Super
As you were
interesting.
saying that, I just had, I don't know why my mind went here, but I'm like, I feel like it's like they're making like a Bravo. You know how there's like the Marvel Cinematic Universe where
Yes.
like characters can die and stuff, but they can always come back because of the multiverse.
Right, yeah, of course.
It's literally like that. They're like, oh,
It
these
is.
people were technically, you know, fired, or they say a lot of the times they're not fired, they're just not renewed.
Right, yeah.
Tomato a little bit. And then they're like, but maybe we bring them back in this like limited Ultimate Girls Trip series.
Yeah.
So it's
which
the
is
Bravo cinematic universe.
Exactly, which is totally what's happened with like Taylor Armstrong, right? Like Taylor went on to Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip season 2, and then, you know, she didn't return to Beverly Hills, she returned to Orange County, and she was the first like housewife to do a crossover from Beverly Hills to Orange County, or like a Real Housewives to another Real Housewives franchise. And that worked out like super well for them. I think, you know, I'd have to admit, I don't watch ROC because I just can't. There's too many things. But I think it's like super interesting to see that, like, and even Tamara got to come back because of Ultimate Girls Trip, right? Like that was the thing that kind of like brought her back onto the series. So I'm kind of hoping that they'll kind of do some similar things with Winterhouse as well, and I'm really hoping for like a Family Karma reboot because of Brian Benny being on this most recent season of Winterhouse.
So I didn't watch Family Karma, but I am liking him on Winterhouse.
So maybe it'll inspire you to go watch Family Karma, or maybe that's the point too, right? Maybe they that's like totally are like, you know, you're gonna get the hook people into like these like tiny things, right? Already this is happening with me and Below Deck because I now like him seeing Katie and Malia on Winterhouse. So I'm like, okay, it's time for me to do this. It's time for me to finally explore Below Deck.
Yeah, I do think that's what it is. So anyways, I feel like we went on a tangent there. But yeah, so Winterhouse had been getting a bit stale. And then this season, they like shook it up and they just threw everything at the wall. And they brought in like people from so many different seasons, franchises, right? There's Summer House, there's Winter House, there's Below Deck, there's Family Karma, there's Summer House Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah. And then there's Vanderpump Rules.
Oh yeah, and Vanderpump Rules, Schwartzy.
Yeah.
And I feel like, so we did like an episode, or like a section of an episode where we talked about the preview, because we were like, I don't know what this is gonna be like. Like it looks fun, I'm here for it. I know some people were skeptical because they're just like, this is a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's so fun. I'm like actually so like delighted by it.
Yeah, I know, it's so fun. I love it. And I think it's just a genius concept, right? Like it's so low stakes. It's just fun. There's going to be like a little bit of messiness, but it's not going to be some of these like long drawn out kind of like rivalries and stuff that I feel like we see in a lot of the other like Housewives franchises, right? Where they just like they disagree on one little thing, and then for the next 18 seasons we're only going to see, you know, this power balance between these two ladies or whatever. Like I think it's just fun.
Yeah. And it is
in the house together, see what happens.
It is fun to see like when different, you know, people across different franchises are put in the same place, and to see kind of like the dynamics that ensue in that way. No, I'm really here for it, and I think it's fun, and I think it's nice that they're kind of like taking risks like that, and hopefully the reception to this encourages them to do that more.
Yeah, hopefully.
So those are pretty much the reasons why we think that Bravo is, you know, killing it in 2023. What do you guys think? Is there something that we missed? Is there other reasons you think Bravo is doing really well right now? Do you not agree? Do you think things are not obviously
it's
not
possible?
It's totally fair. Not all of them are giving the same amount. But no, overall, it's it's more the feeling that I remember having last year. I think when we did a recap, I think one of the words we used to describe the year was literally like dark or like heavy. Yeah. And I would not use that term this year. Yay!
Yeah. No, I know. I remember watching like episodes of Beverly Hills, and I literally had to like follow it up with something like light and fun afterwards. Like I knew going into it that I was gonna feel like really deep
triggered
and dark and down. Yeah. And like it was just so intense, and like some of those episodes last year in particular were so rough to watch.
So bad, so bad. I'm like,
Yeah.
in my mind, I'm envisioning the scene with Erica in the she's wearing a purple
Oh yeah.
blouse when she said that she doesn't give, you
N-
know, an
Yeah.
F about anyone
Yes.
but her.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when they were talking about literal victims.
Yes, yes, yeah, and trying to like get anything through to her about like, and yeah, she'd been like walking around Colorado all day, being like, dismissed without prejudice, thinking that that meant that
Oh
like
yeah.
there was no prejudice against her, and not understanding what the legal term was and how it meant that it could just be refiled somewhere
Yeah.
else. And it was just like, oh my god, yeah, and like the Jax like scene, like I remember that being really hard.
Yeah.
And obviously that's coming back up again this season as well, but yeah, there were some dark moments last year, and I'm excited to move past them.
Yeah. No, fully. So speaking of, let's get into, just some like high level thoughts on the shows that are airing right now.
Yeah.
So we'll start with Southern Charm. We are actively doing Southern Charm recap. So if you're looking for more kind of like getting into the weeds and breaking everything down, definitely feel free to go ahead and check some of those out. But overall, yeah, what are your feelings on Southern Charm this year compared to last year?
Oh my god, so good. No, I think what's kind of happened is that like there was obviously like a pretty big reshuffle that happened in Southern Charm. I think at the end of season 6, right? Like season 7 comes back and Cam is gone, Naomi's gone, Chelsea's gone.
We'll never get over that.
Was there anybody else? I think those were the 3 that I can remember. And I think Danny stuck around for like one more season, and obviously Catherine was still there. But like for the most part, like a good kind of portion of like the core group was like gone, and then that was also like their COVID season. So like halfway through, they like had to completely like rejiggle and figure out, and like they like stopped filming, and then they like picked back filming back up, and it just felt like weird. And it like the shuffle was too disorganized. And I feel like last season was they're like, okay, let's try to get back into the groove. They like started to have like some pretty good storylines. They like brought Naomi back in, and we have the Naomi and Craig dynamic that we're revisiting. But even then, we had like the Whitney and Naomi storyline that everybody kind of thought was fake, talking about fake storylines. And like we were starting to get to know Taylor a little bit more. We were starting to get to know Olivia a little bit more, and now I feel like finally like the cast is like settling a little bit in this most recent season. And we're finally getting into like, okay, let's unpack these storylines. Let's get into who these people are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, as we mentioned before, obviously like a really big driving force of this season and the drama is like the whole love square between like Taylor and Austin and Shep and Olivia.
Yeah.
And just like seeing that play out is really interesting. Also knowing, we knew that it happened. It actually came out that they kissed on episode like 3 or something, which was kind of shocking. I thought it would be drawn out longer, but like it's still going because you're still feeling like they're lying, and you're like, are we going to find out more? And like, it's just like very compelling in that way. We also have like, the OG boys who are always fun to see. And then we have like the newer characters, like you mentioned. Yeah, I think Olivia has come into her own so much as well. And we just like we've called her the MVP of this season so much because of her grace and her
So
poise and her level-headedness, even in the toughest of times. It's delivering. I find every episode like there's no fillers. Like it's just good.
No, it's just good. And well, yeah, and like even if there is like a little filler here and there, and obviously they do now have even more like cast members that are new, right? They have like 3 new male cast members, with like Rodrigo, and JT. But they still, for the most part, like it feels like the core group kind of like knows each other well enough, and we know them well enough that even though we do have kind of like this introduction of 3 new characters, it's still pretty balanced.
Yeah. And we did talk about that too, that like it is missing Catherine. I feel like you definitely feel Catherine not being there. Now that I'm rewatching season 5, which is probably one of my favorite seasons, just because the girls are like having their moment, going up against the boys. I really miss Chelsea. I really miss Cameron. I really miss Naomi. It doesn't have as much as like an anchoring of all the OGs as it once did, but I'm still enjoying it, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the rest of the season goes.
I would love to see Cameron come in this season though and like give us her opinions on Shep and like just this whole dynamic that's going down, because I feel like she always just like was able to kind of put everybody a little bit in their place and like talk some sense into each one of them. So I would be super curious to know her thoughts on how this little love square is going. But
yes,
I guess
same.
we'll just have to, hope
Also,
that we some kind of miracle happens.
I know. Also, Catherine. Like, I would love to know Catherine's take on all of this as well.
Yeah. So we'll see. Maybe she'll come back next season.
Yeah.
Only time will tell.
But no, Southern Charm doing super well.
Mm-hmm.
Salt Lake City is another one that surprised me because I don't even think I finished Salt Lake City last year.
Oh, really? Oh,
I don't think I did.
Oh, no.
I think I got to like the last 2 episodes or something and I was just like, I'm done.
I think that's totally fair. And like they even had like a pretty lackluster reunion too last year. Like they really,
yeah, that's what I heard.
Jen wasn't there. They like phoned her in at one point. That was super weird. It was also like, technically it was only like the 4 cast members that were like the full-time cast members that were there, because it was like Meredith, Heather, Whitney, and Lisa, and then they brought in like Dana and Angie and I think the other Angie like for a little like segment of each part. But like it's just like 4 main cast members is too few cast members to have on the show, right? So that was like very weird, and just the dynamic of the group was like so off, because they were still for the most part like pretty like team Jen, and yeah, it was odd.
That is one thing though, like I don't feel like any of them ever had to have accountability for like riding so hard for Jen and then like having, us find out that she in fact was guilty, and then I feel like they were all just like, oh, never mind.
Like, oh, whoops. Oops.
Like I kind of wish we got more
explanation
on that, like specifically from Heather.
Yeah, for sure. For Heather of all people, who like literally was still like denying about the whole black guy and like how the circumstances of what happened around that.
I think they're just like, well, that's in the past. We're gonna leave that over there.
She is writing a second book, so maybe it'll be in the second book. We'll see.
Oh, interesting. Worst Mormon.
Another bad Mormon.
Bad Mormon. Badder Mormon.
Badder Mormon. There you go.
But yeah, no, this season is fun. I am liking it. I feel like you really change who you align with or you're on the side of, like depending on how the episode goes. Like definitely was not an Angie. It's Angie K, right?
Angie K, yeah.
Angie K stan. But I have to say, this most recent episode, between like the scenes with her and her dad and like I feel like the way she carried herself at Greek Easter to like her being in between the Monica and Lisa fight.
God. Yeah,
like
that was
it
so
was
insane.
I was turning with her a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. And I do think it's interesting that we're seeing kind of like another side of Lisa. Like I think for the most part, like Lisa's been pretty lucky over the last few seasons to get like a pretty good kind of like reception.
Yeah.
Definitely from the fans.
Baby gorgeous.
Everything that she did was iconic. We were all for it. And now kind of like this season, like I think it is like maybe the veneer of that is coming down a little bit.
Totally.
And actually it's weird that like because of how Whitney is receiving kind of like how Lisa is behaving, I actually feel like I'm like more team Whitney than I have been for a while. Because
unpack
I always thought that Whitney was like quite like Whitney would kind of like light the match and then walk away. And I feel like she wouldn't kind of like own it enough, and like I understood that she was kind of like doing like the dirty work that like needed to get done, but like not in a way that I then like respected her for it, right?
Yeah, it's true.
Which is like maybe a me thing more than it's a her thing.
No, it's fair. It's fair. I think she definitely played that role.
Like I feel like there were like some good pot stirrers that like could do that work really well, and I just don't think that like Whitney had like kind of like fully cultivated her ability to do that. I think that she is doing better this season. She
seems more likable this season. The Lisa scenes were pretty shocking. Like she did not come off well this most recent scene, and I don't know why Monica triggers her so deeply.
I know, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, so I guess for those who aren't watching Salt Lake City, Lisa is one of like the OGs, and she's been there, since day one. As I just mentioned, she is like a pretty well liked character.
Yeah.
Monica is a new character who has come up this year, who was Jen Shah's assistant, right?
Something
Or something like that.
Yeah.
That's kind of how she came in. And she's definitely like fiery, and she is not scared of confrontation, and she will scream louder than you. And that's exactly what happened with her and Lisa, where they just kind of get into like a screaming match at Whitney's like store opening, or so some sort of jewelry thing.
Yeah,
that she has,
it was her jewelry like pop up, I think.
Yeah. They're doing a sound bath and they're just like screaming at each other, and like,
yeah, that was really bad.
And like Lisa just wouldn't. She was like a dog with a bone. Like she just would not leave. Like she just kept coming back to like get in jabs, but like Monica just like obliterated her at least from like a verbal perspective.
Yeah, I know that fight was so strange, and Monica is one of those people that like I really find myself like kind of like being on the fence of like who like whether I support her or not. Like I don't think I have like a full enough kind of grasp of her to really make a like educated choice, but she's an interesting character for sure.
Yeah, at first I felt like she felt a little forced, like the first episode when she's like, oh, like it's hard for me to like be friends with these women because I know so many secrets about them, and like it just like it felt like she came in with these one-liners, which like I don't feel like that has played out. Like what secrets were you talking about? Like I don't feel like we've seen any of that.
Yeah, I'd love to know more about the secrets.
Yeah. So it did feel a little too like, oh, so now they're bringing in this woman who was friends with Jen and you know knows all these secrets about all of you. Like that's convenient.
Yeah.
But I have to say, like, as it's gone by, I think that she is very much fueling the season. Like she brings a lot of the drama. I don't think she's always necessarily in the right for some of the things that she says, but like then she also has this very just kind of like, she has a very sad story with that of her mom, who is like seeming to be a complete just like narcissist, and just like clearly they have an extremely tumultuous relationship. Like the screaming match between her and her mom was insane. Like I really feel like her mom thinks this is her show.
Trying to get her opportunity to like get a little bit of the spotlight, and you know
that was not normal. Like have you ever seen like a what's it called,
mother-daughter,
not like, even a mother-daughter, but like on this show, like someone who comes in who's not even on the show, they're like essentially friend of, they're the mom, they're a parent, and they get that much into.
Like, I think it's possible. I can't think of like an example kind of like off the top of my head. Obviously that we've seen like a lot of like very thirsty people who like saw this as their opportunity to like make a little bit of money, make a little bit of a name for themselves. But this is definitely feeling like one of the kind of like more awkward kind of like experiences that we've had, because we do know that like their relationship is probably so layered, and like both of them clearly feel so wronged by the other one. And like, you know, to an extent, like, you know, you're the mom, you have to bear the responsibilities of like, you know, how your daughter is perceiving you and how you're behaving to her, and as the elder person you're supposed to kind of take a little bit more of the high road. But you know, at the same time, like I don't know the full dynamic, and I don't know if we'll ever know the full dynamic of this relationship, so it kind of is what it is. But yeah, it's definitely interesting how much they've kind of taken over the storyline, because it feels like if this storyline between Monica and her mom wasn't happening, like what would be the plot line of of Salt Lake City this year? That's right true. Like there's Whitney's opening up her new jewelry line, her daughter's turning 13, Heather has thoughts and feelings about the fact that Jack is becoming a missionary, Lisa's son is becoming a missionary, that's her storyline, and like Meredith is friends with Mary. That's kind of her storyline, and Meredith is just giving really good one-liners. There like you can leave, right? Oh sorry, my bad. Meredith actually had a near-death experience. Oh yes. And then Angie's kind of just like there, like Angie's like showing us like her family life, but she's not really like having much of a storyline. Yeah. So at the same time, like, you know, Monica's kind of delivering something that like it doesn't seem like a lot of the other women are necessarily willing to do. So I guess we have to give her some amount of props for that.
Yeah, no, it's true. Her mom is also like dragging her on social media too, which is
Yeah, I
just like
know.
so uncalled for.
I
It's
know.
just like
Going
the
into like
whole thing.
details like about like car payments and, late car payments, and we obviously know that like Monica doesn't have great credit history and was potentially purchasing a vehicle that was a little too expensive for her, but
Did you also notice in that scene where Monica was saying like to her mom that she like took their car so they couldn't like she couldn't
right.
drive her kids?
Yeah.
And her mom was like, I don't know, saying something, and her mom was like decked out in like Burberry or like some name brand, and it's
Oh,
like,
really? Oh, I didn't notice that.
and it's
That's
like that's
very
probably not from yourself.
right.
Like,
Well, and even like on social media, like the mom has like gone on to say like, Monica told me that my name would only be on that lease for 1 year, and it's been 2.5 years, as if Monica's mom has like has a problem with the fact that her name is still on the car lease. Like it just feels like those are like kind of contradictory statements, right? Because obviously, if Monica could take over possession of the car, wouldn't she have done that by now? I don't know.
yeah, the whole thing is really confusing as well.
Yeah, a little too
But
confusing.
the other thing that's interesting with Salt Lake City too, which like kind of goes back to, what we're talking about this whole season with like the
Mhm.
shockingness and like the social media driving plot lines. Actually, Salt Lake City has always very much been like driven by social media. Like a lot of their fights would be
Yes.
from
Yes.
things that like they had said on social media that had then
Mhm.
gotten into the show.
Yeah.
But in this case, it seems like, we just find out this kind of breaking news that Monica is suing Heather and her
Yes.
beauty lab for like botched injections, and then Heather is
Mhm.
also suing Monica, or Beauty Labs, that's what it's called, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Beauty Lab is suing Monica.
Yeah, for not
Mhm.
paying
Yeah.
$2,000 or however much that is.
Yeah.
But what's being speculated is that we're going to see this play out in the show.
Yeah. That's just it. That's been speculated that that's going to be the big kind of like reveal of like Heather in the Bahamas.
Yeah,
Being
where you get
like,
like a hot
it's
mic moment.
her?
Yeah.
No way. Oh my god.
Which, if it's true that this is going to be playing out in the show,
Mhm.
there's definitely a reason it's coming out now.
Yes, because we're about to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's that's definitely going to be interesting to see.
Well, and there you go. And then there's another prime example of like, a fake story, like not no fake storylines, right? Because presumably like feels like very real, that like Heather genuinely didn't know that this is who Monica was, and that she was the person that she was suing.
Right, because she
And
used like
that
different names or
because she
something.
used different names, and like she didn't know, and so like that's just feels like that's going to make the whole dynamic super interesting on the cast as well. It sounds like a lot of people are anti Monica at this point, but we'll see what happens come the reunion.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm definitely gonna keep watching to see where that goes this time.
Yeah, definitely.
So the next one I wanted to talk about is Beverly Hills, which
Yeah.
is, back, we're only on episode 3, I want to say.
3 or 4, yeah.
Yeah,
I think one's airing tonight, so
yeah.
4.
So we haven't had that many yet. It's very clear that the main plot line this year is about Kyle and Mauricio, and basically seeing kind of like the end of their marriage.
Yes.
Which, as we mentioned before, is really shocking because we had seen, nothing that is even came close to this for, the past like 12 years that she's been on this show. So that's definitely something that's kind of like driving it in a different direction.
Yeah, and it's just so interesting that this has been like such a hands-off topic for Kyle for so long, right? Like the only kind of really good glimpse of like troubles into her relationship that we've ever seen before was in like season 4, when there were like rumors in the tabloids about, Mauricio having affairs. And I think that there have always been kind of like to an extent like some of those rumors, but it was really addressed in season 4 on the show the most. And Kyle very much like didn't buy into it. She wasn't about it. She was very anti it kind of like being brought up on the show. And actually the rift, and the reason that there was like really a rift between Brandy and LVP in that season and like kind of like going forward, was because Brandy claims that Lisa Vanderpump was trying to get Brandy to plant tabloids on like the trip that they went to. I think they went to Puerto Rico, And like Brandy claims that Lisa Vanderpump was getting her to like pack the tabloids, and Lisa Vanderpump claims that she wasn't trying to get her to do that and that she hadn't seen the tabloids, which like, come on, Lisa, a little bit, but also like, come on, Brandy. And like, who knows who we really believe, because I think both of those people were very capable of coming up with either of those stories. But yeah, so that's like the one like glimpse that we've ever seen, kind of like a little bit of a crack in Kyle and Mauricio's relationship. And then even in the last couple of years, if you think back to like the dinners that Kyle, Mauricio, Dorit, and PK have shared, they've always like seemed like such like a tight knit group of friends, and like that they kind of like as like couple friends they were quite like happy and simpatico and whatnot, and like the way that they've talked about Erica in, I think it was season 11, and like Kyle and PK, sorry, Mauricio and PK were like making fun of Erica
for
the head injury that Tom had allegedly had.
They're like, save the foot.
Save the foot, because he's a soccer player, he's not a lawyer. Save the foot. And then like obviously the scene that happened last year in season 12 with the Jax comment that that Erica had made, basically telling Jax to blank off, and then Mauricio and PK kind of like chiming in at one of those couple dinners of being like, oh, I think it was great that she did that, and then just kind of like joking about this whole situation, right? So like just to think that like that was just one season earlier, and now here we are one season later in our current season 13, and just the dynamic between Mauricio and Kyle is so different.
It is
like you can't
different.
Even imagine them having like a chummy conversation with PK and Dorit.
It's so crazy. It's like, we mentioned this briefly, like Kyle seems like a completely different person. Like she seems like she just kind of like hates everyone except for, I guess, Morgan Wade.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so strange. Like you're just like, what happened from there to here? Like even Mauricio seems like really confused.
Yeah, he does. That's just it. Like I think he's been getting away with, let's say, murder like all these years, and like their relationship has been like steady, and now it's finally like off kilter, and he's like, whoa, you've never had a problem with me behaving this way before, and now all of a sudden you have a problem with this. Like
no,
weird.
I'm interested to see where the season goes. Dorit, I feel like the first little bit seemed like she was finally gonna have a good season. Where like she's bringing the one-liners, she's funny, she's snappy, and then she just completely loses the plot as she does, and like specifically when Garcelle says that she doesn't feel comfortable and she doesn't really trust this group in relation to speaking about her kids because of the incident you just mentioned with Erica, telling her son, her like 14-year-old son, to F off, and everyone being like, ha ha ha, so funny.
Hilarious. I think it was great that she did that.
And Dorit just being so like taken aback by that and like insulted, and she just like won't let it go, and just like won't see where Garcelle is coming from. Dorit always, I don't know why, like she's always had a problem with Garcelle, and again like I'm always surprised with who Dorit and Kyle like go up against, because they really care about fan perception, and they just always choose the wrong person.
I know. Well,
talking about you, Diana Jenkins.
Oh my god, did you see that thing about Andy like allegedly saying at BravoCon that Diana was like the one person that he like regrets not coming back, and that he wishes that she would like come back to the show one day? And it's
because she was like the level that he wishes that like the show was at.
Yes, that's what it was.
And then she reposted it being like, this is so kind.
And then like all the housewives like were like, yeah, amazing, we would love to see you back. And then apparently it was like a fake thing that like Andy had like never said, and he's like, nobody asked me about her, like what are you talking about?
So embarrassing for everyone involved.
So embarrassing, and like so disappointing to see how many of like them were like fully in support of that idea and like wanted to throw their weight behind it in like a public forum like Instagram. I was like, I just don't get it.
I don't get their love for Diana because she has money, when like we literally just learned that Sutton, what is the amount that she got from her settlement? Like something insane.
It's $300,000 a month.
Sutton is like wealthy.
Like literally everybody's like, okay, maybe like some of them are less wealthy, but like for the most part, all of these people are very wealthy. And like Crystal, like she doesn't need. I just don't understand.
Yeah, I just don't get why they're so
understand.
mean to Sutton, and then they like
Yeah.
just like bow down to like
Yeah,
Diana.
Diana. I know, she was the worst.
She was the worst. But
Mistake.
yeah, so Dorit's
Anyways.
like we're seeing different sides of people
Yeah.
a little bit, but then Dorit goes back to being Dorit.
Yeah, of course, always.
Sutton, I feel like Sutton is one that like she's like, you've been on a ride with her. Like I feel like her first season we were kind of like, you're kind of annoying.
Yeah.
And then the season she called out Erica, we're like, yeah, Sutton, queen.
She was like literally the one person, so we had to like root for her.
Yeah. And then this most recent episode is just so strange, and she goes like completely bonkers about the Magic Mike show because she is on the board of the ballet something.
Yeah, and like I have to admit, like I can kind of like, Erica was like, please, it's Magic Mike, like you knew what to expect. And I have to admit, like anytime that we've seen like Magic Mike shows like on this show specifically, because I feel like they've been at least like 3 times, maybe at least one of them was on Vanderpump, but still, like they've gone like multiple times to Magic Mike shows, and I feel like we've never seen that.
That's true.
And I have to admit, even I was a little bit like, wow, okay, this is lot pretty hairy for daytime TV, not daytime TV, but nighttime TV, TV in general. This is a lot of information, and that was a whole segment of the show that I did not know existed. So, and I don't know if I needed to know that it existed.
But her reaction was like so big. It was so big, and then she was like trying to say that it wasn't big. But she very much made a big deal about it.
I mean, she did, but she also didn't. Like, I could kind of understand where she was coming from. She was like, well, I left. Like, you're the one that followed me out. Like, you didn't have to follow me out, to saying that to Kyle. Whereas, like, Garcelle kind of, like, did have to follow her out, right? Like, she was standing right beside her. She was the one that she was telling about it. But, like, Kyle decided to, like, inject herself into the situation. And like Kyle didn't need to like leave at that time.
Yeah, no, it's true. And then Kyle's just really mean to Sutton. She's always been so mean to her. And then she also at the same time expects her to show up for her more than other people. Yeah. It is so strange.
And then she like gives her a hard time about still being friends with Kathy, even though Kyle wasn't friends with Kathy anymore. And it's just like Kyle just has like a different set of rules.
Now. I think that came out at the BravoCon panel.
That they're good now.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, and I feel like because like, they like had Whitney, I think was Kim's daughter that got married this summer, so I think everybody was in Aspen for that. So I guess like there seems to have been like a turning of the tide for, well, and even when the whole Morgan Wade thing was coming out, like it was because Morgan Wade was on an Amazon Live with Kathy and Kyle that everybody was like, who's this person in the background that's just like hanging out, and that kind of like got everybody's like mind spinning and being like trying to like become like detectives and sleuths and stuff.
Actually,
yeah.
Well, you just mentioned that Kyle has kind of like different rules for Kyle, and it just made me think about
different rules for Kyle or different rules for Sutton.
Oh, okay. I thought you said for Kyle.
Oh,
also
sorry.
for Sutton.
But you're right. She does have different rules for Kyle too, though.
Well, what that made me think of is in the BravoCon Beverly Hills panel, Kyle basically said that she was disappointed in primarily Sutton for like bringing up her stuff with Mauricio on camera. And
you
Garcelle,
have to be kidding me.
Yeah, right? And Garcelle was like, we're on a reality TV show. Like, you kind of have to show your life, especially when, like, your husband has been part of the story.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just be
this whole time.
Yeah.
Well, and also, like, I'm sorry, Kyle, who was the one that got Kim and Brandy to come over in season 10, I want to say, and, like, exposed Denise and her affair with Brandy on TV? Like,
but that's just
that was you, Kyle.
Well,
like,
that's it. Kyle is always pushing people and being like, tell your truth, like tell your truth, like be open, like or be honest, like and it's just like I find it just like so hypocritical.
Yeah.
That now that, you know, it's about her, she's like really not happy about it.
Come on, Sutton, you're so mean to me. Jeez, so hard to be Kyle.
And then I think she was like, oh, it's not like the fact that she brought it up, but it's like how she said it or something. I don't know. She tried to like back out of that corner.
Sure. A likely story. Disappointed.
Yeah, but all in all, it's much better than last year, and that's
yes, 100%. And that's just it. It's like it's fun to get annoyed by these things. It's very different to like get annoyed when a whole cast is telling you that it's not a big deal that some like one of the cast members, you know, swore at your child. Like that was not fun, but like this is fun. This is enjoyable.
Yeah,
we're allowed to have like a little conflict, but
yeah kind of there's a balance, right? Like we were talking about in one of our episodes how like what kind of made a lot of these series so good, especially Beverly Hills at the beginning, is like they had this beautiful kind of like balance of like, you know, petty housewife drama and then like real actual life drama. But I feel like the drama that we were seeing was like illegal and
illegal, not good, just genuinely like dark and heavy,
and like that's not the real drama.
No,
and it was
not what we want.
And it wasn't only that, it was also making excuses and pretending that it was okay, and that was really frustrating.
And then also like fully fabricating stories that like nobody could corroborate except for Lisa Rinna. And just like no one pushing against it except for Sutton, like so Beverly Hills.
Can't get started. Can't get me started on like last season. Excited to see Denise. Excited to see Camille.
Yeah, you're such a liar, Camille.
Excited to never see Teddi. Also, just a little drop of what everyone was commenting on from BravoCon when like Teddi had a guest bracelet.
Yes.
Which
go for it.
I was gonna say, to be fair, it means like that she's like guest of talent, so she was probably there with either Tamra. Kyle or Tamra.
Yeah, probably Tamra, let's be honest.
I just find the internet's hatred of Teddi the funniest, like,
oh my god,
thing. Like they'll literally call her like Teddi at first it was she's Teddi Mellencamp. At first it was John Mellencamp's daughter.
Yes.
Then it became like John Mellencamp's nephew's cousin or something. Like,
well, I also saw John Mellencamp's son-in-law's wife. And then I think Ryan Bailey calls her Freddie Mellencamp. I don't know why, but I like it.
So I don't think she'll be coming. Oh yeah, on that panel too, someone was like to Kyle, like, why do you keep thrusting Teddi on us?
I just want to make Teddi happen.
And then Kyle was super defensive, as she was the whole time. And she was like, you know, like, I don't have to explain myself to you, basically. And she was like, the Teddi that, you know, we know is not the Teddi that you see on TV. Which, I'm sorry, did you just tell me that everything on your show is fake? Like, what?
Right, because she's edited that way. She's edited to look the worst person ever. Okay.
Like, what? Like,
sure.
How do we not press that more?
A likely story, Alex and Simon McCord.
Anywho, Beverly Hills doing better than they were last year. Excited to see where it's gonna go. Really quickly, Winterhouse, because we talked about it briefly. This season they decided to throw in like a whole bunch of different people who didn't really know each other that well. So we have Summer House, we have Winterhouse coming back, we have Below Deck from multiple different seasons. We have Family Karma. And we have VPR with Schwartzy. It's really interesting too that this happens literally right after Scandoval broke. I think a week or two after.
Timing. They were so lucky that happened in that way.
So now we also get this kind of like point in time of Tom Schwartz right after Scandoval.
And it's so interesting to see his interpretation of the events and like what's going on, and just like his woe is me kind of like attitude of like, oh, what I was leaving behind in LA versus me here now. Like I'm excited to shed my skin.
I mean, he's definitely
I have to do an accent.
No, I really liked it. He's giving the same spiel that he had been giving for a long time. I didn't cheat. Like, why am I being villainized? Like, this wasn't my fault. Just like not getting the point, Schwartz.
No,
I have to say, the goddamn Schwartz charm It gets you. Like, I feel
No.
like the first episode or two, I'm like, oh god, this whole woe is me. But then, like, once we stop talking about Scandoval and you just see him kind of like awkwardly try to like flirt
Court
or like
somebody,
just like I'm just kind of like, oh shucks.
I know, it kills me because that's the problem, is that he always gets away with it, and it's just like, come on. And I loved Katie's because at BravoCon Andy Cohen asked Katie Maloney about kind of like how she's receiving the storylines that are happening in Winterhouse, and how specifically around the hookup that's going to happen between Tom Schwartz and Katie from Below Deck. And she's like, well, I think it's interesting. Katie says about Katie, I think it's interesting that she didn't see the show. And that's why, like, obviously she was like interested in Tom Schwartz, because had she seen the show, she would know
yes,
who this individual really is.
No, totally. It would have been, I don't think you would have different. The same type of response.
But
it is fun. I'm really liking it. I like that everyone's single.
Except for Corey.
Corey. Oh God, Corey.
He's not single.
I don't know how him and Sam bounce back from this, because it's not good.
I know. It is not good. And knowing that they're not even on Summer House this season, like, I'm really curious to see what like the future of Corey and Sam's like, you know, fate at Bravo is. Like, do they come back for a Winter House? Do they maybe try to come back for Summer House next season?
I don't know. I still don't understand why they didn't bring Sam back to Summer House.
I think because of Corey.
That's so messed up though. Like, that's not fair. Like, why would you punish her for Corey? Like, just like, Corey doesn't have to come. He can just show up sometimes.
Yeah, I know, but I don't know. Maybe it was just because they didn't want like another couple on the show. I'm not really sure 100% of the reason.
Just Kyle and Amanda. They're the only couple that can only be. Actually, well, no, Lindsay and Carl were there at the time.
That's true. That's true. But maybe that's just it. Maybe it would be like too many.
Well, that's it. And like, that's what's nice about this one. It's like everyone's single for the most part. Yeah. Kyle and Amanda are funny because they somehow just like Kyle doesn't feel out of place, which is the funny part.
Yeah, no, not at all.
You'd think that he would, considering he's like, for the most part, older, except for maybe Schwartz, and also married. But nope,
no, just there to party, just there to hang out. He brings the lover boy, so it's like whatever. Yeah, he's the new Bethany Frankel.
Don't say that.
Just in the terms of his alcohol connections.
Okay.
His spawn con.
So it's fun. I'm loving seeing Danielle on her own as well.
Yeah, that's just it. That's why it's also so interesting to see this kind of like mixture of people, because the dynamics are just so different. Like, I don't know if we've ever really seen like Danielle one-on-one in such a way, and I'm actually quite surprised after. I guess I can't fully remember the timing of everything, but like knowing that Summer House, the reception to her was so bad last season, to then have her kind of be like a full-time cast member on Winter House this season, I don't know why I put that in quotes, is interesting, because like obviously we're getting so much more of her storyline. And would the audience reception of Danielle be as favorable right now if the Carl and Lindsay breakup hadn't happened and Danielle was then like made right in Lindsay's eyes, and thus the audience would be more in favor of Danielle than they had been when, like, because like last season it was not good. People were not Team Danielle.
It's true. And also, I feel like Danielle like reconnected with the girls mainly from her follow with Lindsay.
Yes.
Now that they're friends again, do all the girls stay friends? Mm-hmm. From the BravoCon panel, it seems like they are. Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm really enjoying seeing Danielle like this. I'm really enjoying the Below Deck girls that I didn't know. Mm-hmm. I like seeing Jordan from Martha's Vineyard.
Yes, that's
very I think
fun.
She gets along with everyone super well. I like seeing Brian. He's so funny.
I know, he's so cute. I love him.
I could do without Alex from Below Deck.
Yeah, easily.
He's giving F-boy.
Yeah, he's gross.
And I'm so excited to see Aisha from Below Deck.
I know, I'm so excited. Yeah, it's a fun mix. It's a good group. It's just chill. I'm excited for them to do it again this year and just kind of like see who kind of comes out back as like the new cast members.
Yeah,
so,
it's just light and it's fun. And to your point earlier, I think they are definitely doing well if their attempt was to get people to go back and like kind of gauge new interest in some of the franchises. I think they definitely did good with that. Yeah. So yeah, Winterhouse, super fun. Keep it coming.
Amazing.
Let's see how fast we could get through Potomac
I
and
know.
Miami.
I think we can do it. I think we can do it really fast.
So, okay, Potomac has come out.
Yeah.
Real Housewives of Potomac. It's only had 2 episodes so far. How are we feeling?
Yeah, 2 or 3 episodes now. 2 episodes?
Oh gosh.
I don't know. Whatever.
I don't know.
Who's to say?
At this point, when this comes out, there might be like 3 or 4.
3 or 4. Okay. So hard to say. I'm loving Potomac. The thing is, like, I always find Potomac is going to be reliable and like relatively good, right? Like, I think that the group dynamics are always interesting. I think that the shade is always there. The reads are amazing. And for the most part, like, I just think it's a good, reliable franchise, right? Like, I know what I'm going to get with Potomac, and I know that some people criticize it because of that, because they're like, the storylines are the same every year. And like, literally I saw a TikTok where the person was like, I can tell you what's going to happen this season. Like, there's going to be somebody that goes after like one of the core members' marriage, and then there's going to be a new person that gets integrated, and then they're going to go after like one of the core members of the group, and then there's going to be this, and there's going to be that, and there's going to be this, and like Ashley's going to stir the pot, and like Giselle is going to give us nothing. And it's just like, okay, fair, I'll give you that, but at the same time, like, it's still just good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, I agree. I do think last season was probably one of the worst ones for Potomac, just because of like, it just felt like they were falling into the Beverly Hills trap of like fake storylines with all the stuff
Giselle,
with Chris.
That was bad.
Trying to, what it seemed like, really kind of like slander, one of the house husbands and his wife, Candace. Yeah. Especially when we knew after that, while all this was happening, Robin Dixon, one of the OGs, was actually going through like all of these like alleged possible her husband, who she just got remarried to for a second time, possible cheating scandal, paying for a woman's hotel, but just because she lost her credit card and he didn't sleep there, like
just casual, normal stuff.
All of this was like conveniently left off the show and then put on her Patreon with Giselle.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And then her like, excuse of like, well, I was just waiting for Karen to bring it up. It's just like, oh, okay. Except for the one time that Karen did actually bring it up, and you like really didn't have like anything good to say about that, but okay, interesting. Yeah.
And now they are trying to address, their scenes with her and Juan, and they're just like, ooh, they're not great.
No, they're not great. And that's just it. Like, I'm so surprised that she married him again. And like, it really just feels weird that like, they've already been divorced and they've already had the adultery issues. And now here we are again. It feels weird that you wouldn't learn that lesson the first time. And that, like, she had even brought up the fact that, like, she wanted, like, a prenup clause that included infidelity. And I don't even think I think that they didn't end up signing a prenup in the end.
Yeah.
Just feels unwise. Yeah. The Bravo docket would have words for them.
I'm sure they would. But yeah, so that part is strange. I do wish there was like less of a divide with the cast. I feel like there's like very much kind of a line in the sand, and like
definitely
that can be a little bit less fun at times. I've read actually as well, someone online was saying like, I feel like there's really good stories to be had with both like Ashley and Robin, but they won't let us in enough for us to like actually see what's going on there.
I think that's a very fair critique, actually. I think that makes a lot of sense. That we're not like, right, like, it's very weird, this whole Ashley and Michael situation. Like, obviously they're trying to like co-parent, and obviously the prenup did not work in Ashley's favor, and that's kind of blowing up in her face, and so it is probably quite like fragile what she can say. Because at the same time, like, anything that she says on TV is going to impact her potential livelihood and the livelihood of her children. But you're right. Like, at the same time, like, this is your livelihood, right? Like, this is the thing that you build yourself upon. And maybe like, what's your, duty to see this through and like give yourself over to this like TV show. And it's a question.
It is. And to your point, like, I do also think it's a pretty reliably good show. I feel like the fact that they still have pretty much all their OGs, right? This far into the season, and they continue to bring it. Like, I love these women. I do not tire of watching them, watching them, fight, but also watching them make up.
Yeah.
Like, when Karen and Giselle are friends, they are hilarious.
I know, they're so good. It's get a few moments of it, but it's great when it happens.
No, I'm still enjoying it. I'm interested to see where it goes.
Yeah.
And then last but not least is Miami, which for this year, I guess they must have moved off Peacock because we could finally watch it in Canada at the same time as everyone else.
Thank you, Hey You, or whoever did that. We really appreciate it. I say that, but I haven't actually started watching it yet, but I will.
So I think there's only 2 episodes that are out. Again, I should stop saying this. Actually, just for you guys to know, we're filming this one a little bit earlier because Iris, do you want to tell everyone what's going on in your life?
Oh my god, sure. I mean, like, if I don't want to jinx it or anything, but
well,
if I say it out loud, it might not come true.
Yeah,
that's true. It'll probably be done by the time that this airs. Yeah, so I'm actually in the process of moving to the UK, so that'll be a new little adventure, which won't really make much impact on the Couchwives community or our lives at all, but still something exciting to come.
The Couchwives will be international, so
exactly. There you go. I'll start to have like a British accent. I'll be talking about like the ladies of London instead of the ladies of Potomac.
You'll be like Dorit, and you'll just turn into like a woman of the world.
Exactly. When you travel the world, you can speak in any accent you want.
So when we film, you'll just be in the future.
Yeah, it'll be amazing. It'll be a different time.
Yeah, so we'll keep you updated on that journey because like that's pretty wild.
Crazy. Super crazy.
Anywho, Miami. It's starting off strong. Miami's always strong though. Like it's just the perfect amount of kind of like crazy and drama and petty and real, and just like these women are, they bring it. I do think that they bring it. I don't think it's going to be a good season for Larsa.
Oh no. Yeah, from what I've seen online, I definitely think that I would agree with that.
Like very bad.
Oh no. What's happened exactly?
Well, I don't want to spoil it for you, but we know.
No, that's okay.
Like that Gertie ends up like we find out that Gertie has breast cancer, right?
Yes.
Which she has beaten. Yeah. She said at BravoCon. Yay!
Cancer-free.
That's amazing. That was really difficult to see when we found her on social media. Like so happy that she's doing well. It's really it's rough. Like you see on the first season, the first episode, like she's kind of out of sorts, and she's like, you could tell that something's wrong, and it's because she got this result and they didn't know what it was, and she had to kind of like get more tests. And then we see in this next episode that I think has just come out, I haven't seen it yet, she tells Larsa, her and Larsa are like fighting because something that I think Gertie said that she thought Larsa was fake in like one of her interviews or something.
Right. Okay.
And Larsa was like super upset about that because she thought they were friends.
Right.
And Larsa just keeps going after her and after her and after her. And then Gertie basically tells her that she has breast cancer. And like, this is the clip we saw on social media where Larsa just is like, how do you know? How do you know? How do you know? I didn't know that. How was I supposed to know that? Like, and just like, no empathy, just like the complete wrong response.
Oh my god. Yeah. And I've heard that she's like subsequently like doubled and tripled down on her, like the way that she behaved kind of in that scene.
Yes. She's been asked multiple times outside of the show now if she feels bad, and she basically said no. And then apparently she spills the tea and tells all the girls that Gertie has breast cancer without Gertie being able to tell them.
Right, as if that's your story to tell.
Larsa's always been like selfish. Like she comes off very selfish and like living in Larsa's world. Right. But this was like a lot.
The next level of that.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Lisa has a new man post Lenny, but she's still dealing with like still dealing with like the fallout from her divorce or trying to get a divorce. So it'll be interesting to see.
Cool. Love it. Well, I'll have to get into it so I can catch up.
Yes, but Miami was always good. Like, it was good last year too. So
Yeah,
they
the
are
last couple
actually the
seasons
one
have been
that
very
doesn't
strong.
make this list of
Yes.
being bad last year.
There you go. The exception to the rule. Yeah, well, and if anything, maybe they kind of kicked us off, right? Because they started airing in December last year. And we had like the Lenny hot mic moment, and that was crazy.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so
That was
maybe
before
they were
Scandoval.
the real initiator of this tide turning for Bravo.
That's so true. Wow.
We'll never know. We'll never know.
I love it. And then there's also
Yeah.
Below Deck Med that's coming out, or that's out. That I am watching.
Mhm.
It's only the second season of a Below Deck that I've seen. No, third, because I saw seasons
good for
1 and
you.
2 of Down Under.
Nice.
Season 2 of Below Deck Down Under with Captain Jason is still the best.
Okay, cool.
It's so good. If you're gonna start anywhere, I would suggest you start there.
Cool. I can do that.
This one's not as fun, I'm finding.
Okay.
I feel like season 2 was just so good of Down Under. But still fun. I just think the Below Deck premise is amazing.
Yeah.
And I don't know how we haven't gotten into it.
I know. Well, and mainly just because there's just so many of them. I think that's always been my like blocker, is that there's just too much. I don't even know where to start.
Just start it Down Under season 2.
Okay.
You don't need to. It's fine. You can go back and watch season 1 after.
Homework for next week.
It's so good. It's so good. But it's just so fun. Like, beautiful locations. You're getting like a real world type drama where people are living and working together and then partying after their charter's done. You're seeing like the craziness of these like super rich people who go on like super yachts. It's so good.
It sounds lovely. Like, yeah, I know I have to watch it. I just have to get there.
Yeah, we'll add it to the list.
Add to the list. Amazing.
So that's all the shows. This was a super packed episode. So if you've made it till the end, thank you for staying. Let us know your thoughts on all of the shows that we just went over. What's your favorite? What are you liking? What are you not liking? And if you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Join the Real Couchwives community. We're gonna continue to grow. We're going global.